We thank you so much for watching Voices of the Bar, where the legal world speaks. And we want to go straight to the history of tort. And we want to appreciate it, how these events move together. How are we supposed to appreciate it? I know by the end of this video, we would have appreciated this. I am not going to do the different torts in the different society, but I'm going to carry the overall over this issue of history of tort. Let us begin with the Gentile societies. Colleagues, if you read, I know at this time we have all read the Gentile society and others. Colleagues, under the Gentile society, we pick one element that as people evolved, even the thoughts started to evolve. As people were evolving, even the thought was evolving at the same time with the people. Okay? We shall give an example. If you look at the Gentile society, this is what they want you to have in your head. When you look at the Gentile society, under this society, the people started by living together. They go and gather fruits together. Okay? They were living in harmony. But as time went on, they started to develop. They started hunting, iron smelting. They developed to agriculture. So we are saying, as they developed, even the thoughts were developing, because it is from those activities that the thought begin to evolve. So as the Gentile society developed, even the thoughts were developing. And by every activity, so in every society, we must look at the main activity. What is the activity that was there? And what could be the thoughts that are associated by that activity? Let's go to the slave society. That you see, at the end of the Gentile society, we go into civilization, and that is now is agriculture. So we enter into slave society when we have agriculture. Two, we have a group of people that has emerged, who are the philosophers, and then we have the majority people who are being taken as slaves. So meaning that we have the slave lords, and then we have the servants who are taken as the slaves. But the main activity is agriculture, meaning that the slaves were working on these shambas, on the agricultural plantations of these few people. And meaning that the slaves were supplying the few people. Now, when you look at the slave society, from these activities, what thought can develop following those activities? Let's give an example. If there is land and people are doing agriculture, it means that then people want to protect themselves against encroachers on land. That because people are growing, they will grow their products. Meaning, they don't want anybody to encroach on their product. So, as people are growing, even the thoughts are growing. So, in a slave society, we have that group of people that are oppressing the servants. So, those servants who were working as slaves now, time is going to come when they want to fight for their rights. But remember, these few, because they are owning land, because they are producing for them products or goods, it means that they now started to wanting to protect themselves against any danger. That let's put trespass to land. Whoever comes on my land without my authorization has breached. You understand? So that one is created. So they are trying to protect. In every society, there are those few minority who want to protect themselves against the majority. Now, those majority, Because of that, the torts kept on developing. So in the slave society, what they are telling us that because you find that there are no many torts which developed in the slave society, most of the torts are in the feudal society. But this one is laying a foundation. They are philosophers, they are slaves, slaves are being harassed, and eventually you see at the end of the slave society, there were demonstrations all over. The slaves fighting, saying, no, we don't want, leave us now, okay? And they migrated into what we now call feudal society. The feudal society now started. Now this is the point. In the feudal society, this is where most of the torts are. But the question is, what drives us to those torts? Why are these torts starting in the feudal society? Okay? Let's begin with the Magna Carta. 1215 Magna Carta. That this Magna Carta was the first legal document that came up during the feudal society. And the people were fighting for their rights. Right of habeas corpus, the fair hearing, land issues, taxation, and others. So, and all this was against the king. So in the feudal society, the people were fighting for their rights. And that is why all those torts developed. Okay? Because it is a time from slave society. Now, from slave society, you find that we go into the feudal society when the Catholic Church and the kingdom were owning everything. And because they were owning everything, they wanted to protect themselves from these people. That if we don't protect ourselves, these people will encroach on our land, trespass to land. If we don't, these people will assault us, will threaten us, they will come to fight us. So if anybody wants to fight me, we charge them under battery. If they want to do this, if they scare us, they abuse us, we say there is assault. So these few people wanted to protect themselves against the peasants. So that is why, following the barons, they decided to have the Magna Carta declared to try to solve the problems. Because the church and the other people and the kingdom were at ransom. So because of that, these thoughts are developing there. Because the few people, the leaders in the feudal society, wanted to protect themselves against any threat from the people. So that is why every thought in there developed. If you talk about goods, they had started to make, to harvest their products. So to bring trespass to goods, they wanted to protect themselves against any challenge that would come at the material time. So you look at every thought, but knowing that in this society there were revolutions, there were demonstrations, people were not happy with the church and the king to protect themselves, all those riots started. No wonder it is in this stage where we have all the courts which were established. Okay? So, you look at the situation which was in that society, and then you look vis-a-vis the thoughts which were brought. But in your mind, what should be, when we discuss the history of thought, we are saying, why did those thoughts develop in those societies? So that is what we are now looking at this time. Why did those thoughts develop in those societies? So from there, we fed into mercantilism. Now in mercantilism, we were now growing, and now there were trade. So most of the trespass to goods, some were established in feudal, but its continuation is in mercantilism. And all those that were created under the mercantilism, this is when trade was booming. People now started to create towns markets. They will move to different areas, make them markets, towns, and those towns which were markets later developed into trading centers. Now, all those torts which were developed in the mercantilism were as a result of trade. People were also protecting their trade, their booming trade, trespass to goods, conversion, detinue. That when we trade in goods, people may want to take our goods. How do we protect them? So those torts were created in the mercantilism because there was booming trade. That is why if you read the notes of mercantilism, they give you the history that how trade used to be done. They would walk, move here, go to towns, then do this, do that. All that, they are telling you that these torts have developed as a result of people participating in trade, developing their trade. So we are saying as people continue to develop, the torts started to develop. So you look at the torts which were formed in feudalism, but they have an extension in mercantilism. So you still explain that as these torts was first started in the feudal society, but later, because as man developed, the torts were developing, it was now improved in the mercantilism society. Okay, so as they grow, as the people grow, the torts also grow. So in the mercantilism, those torts grew because of trade, and now people wanted to protect themselves in line with those trades. Okay, then we go to industrial capitalism. Now this one, industrial capitalism, now man had grown. We had started now industries. Okay, they are now industries. Now in the industries, the rich people also wanted to protect themselves. Now let's look at the defenses which developed in here. Number one, contributory negligence, voluntary and fit injury, common employment, accident. You know that because industries had started, the rich fellows said, these people will bring cases against us. Let us bring these defenses so that if they get issues in the industries, they get an accident, we say they knew what they were doing. Contributory negligence, voluntary and fit injury, voluntary assumption of risks. Okay, that they brought them to protect themselves against any liability that would arise. Okay, torts like defamation. Why are they starting in industrial capitalism? Simply because now we have people who feel they have the name, they have the money, they don't want to be talked about. Okay, vicarious liability. Of course, this is not a tort, but they want to protect themselves from liability. That if you go to work and you do your other things, even if you are at work, I am not liable. But if what you're doing is within our scope, I am liable. Okay? So the torts are developing with the situation. Now, because of industrial capitalism, we now see torts developing: vicarious liability, strict liability, defamation, those defenses happening. It is because still the rich people wanted to protect themselves from the would-be liability, and that is why these torts kept on developing. Then finance capital, the same thing. Torts were still developing. Now here we have the money. Money is in the economy in the 18th. Money is there, is running up and down, and now that is why these torts are trying to develop. So when we're discussing these torts, when you're discussing the torts, you must appreciate the reason why that tort developed in that society. And that is why I've been answering why that tort came in that society. Then this is very important to note. If a question is about problem question, you don't need to go into the history. But if it is block question, they're asking you the elements of trespass to persons, then you have to first bring the history, then you begin to discuss the elements. Okay? So I pray that this video be of help to you, colleagues. We thank you so much for watching Law School Voices of the Bar, where the legal world speaks. Subscribe, share, like our videos. Until next time, cheers.